Hello, everyone. Welcome today to this webinar. Today, we are going to talk about critical thinking to win in your PM role. My name is Paula Batlle, and I'm Senior Manager at Amazon. I'm leading a team of Product Management Tech and BIE, Business Intelligence Engineer. So a little bit about me. I've been working at Amazon for the past 10 years. I've been both leading product teams as well as being an individual contributor product manager or principal product manager. I've been working in the seller phase, selling partner phase, so basically improving the experience for selling partners selling through Amazon, as well as in the retail space, so basically improving the experience for our end customers who shop on Amazon. And here I've been in different fields, in the field of mobile shopping experience, search experience, both front-end and back-end search. I've been working also in basket building projects, in initiatives to improve as well deals discoverability, and also in improving the experience for customers purchasing home products or furniture online. Before Amazon, I was working, or all my experience was on the business side. And at Amazon, I've been developing the technical expertise to be in a product management tech role. But before that, it was all business. I studied business administration and management. And then I worked 1 year as a consultant at Deloitte, 3 years at Mango, where I was product manager, but product manager of physical products. So basically, I was in charge of managing the collection of Amazon for different countries. And then, and managing the life cycle of this collection. And then I studied an MBA. And basically during the MBA, I decided that I wanted to pursue my career on the product management space and on the digital space. So the agenda of today is why critical thinking is the most relevant skill for product management. I'm going to give you tools on how to develop this skill. And I'm going to be talking about one of the frameworks that is very relevant to me and that I think that might be helpful as well for you. So I'm going to share that. Everything is that I'm going to be sharing is tools that I've been using, that have been working for me, that I've been adopting as well, and my perspective. So it's going to be a very personal webinar, I hope. So why critical thinking is, according to me, and I'm happy to be proven wrong, the most relevant skill for a product manager. So product managers are essentially kind of CEOs of a product. And one of the main things that as a product manager, that the product manager needs to do is take decisions. In order to take decisions, you need to be good at problem solving. And you will need to be taking decisions that influence many different areas of the product and that involve many different partners and stakeholders. So the product manager needs to consider the technical needs, technical requirements, the customer needs, the most important one, the business needs, the marketing approach, the legal environment and the legal requirements, the PR requirements, and the usability, work with the usability team, with the UX research team, and so on and so on. And needs to be able to create direction that onboards everyone and considers all these different factors. So that's why critical thinking and ability to take decisions, and hopefully good decisions, and develop the muscle of creating high judgment calls is really important. And when I was approached by the product school team and we were discussing different topics that we could talk about in this webinar, I thought, okay, I could be talking about how to create a 3-year plan vision, or how to create a roadmap and take prioritization decisions, or how you can define a minimal valuable product. But I thought, what's the learning that I've had in my career that has been the most painful one? And I think that has been realizing how important critical thinking is when you are hiring a team and when you are developing a team. And I did some mistakes building previous teams, not the one that I'm at now, but in the past I did some mistakes where I overlooked the critical thinking skill. And when I realized that, I thought, how can I prevent the situation in the future so I can identify that skill during hiring, and I can find ways to develop that skill on the team. Because without that in your team, and as a product manager, you are not going to be able to scale up. Because it's going to be difficult for you to be able to take independent decisions if you don't develop this muscle. So that's why when I started hiring my next team, or the next components of the team, what I started applying is business cases, because I thought, and here I identified that during my MBA years, I was part of the consulting team, and in the consulting team we were participating in many crack the case exercises. And this is essentially that you are giving a problem and you need to navigate this problem, creating frameworks that help you take a final decision or that help you identify an opportunity. And I thought that this could be a good framework for me during interviews. And I'm going to explain what I'm looking for, not only in the interviews, but also how you can approach this problem. Because essentially, in my interviews, I give examples of situations that I've faced in my career, and that and I'm looking for basically how people will navigate the problems I face, and that helps me assessing how this candidate thinks, and also learn about maybe things that I didn't consider at the time. So I think that it's an interesting exercise, and that will make me move into this slide, which is developing critical thinking. How can you approach problems that you need to solve, and how you can do it also during the interviews, but this is applicable really to your day-to-day job. So the first of all is understand the problem you want to solve before jumping into solutions. This is essential. And during some interviews, I've seen candidates that you give an intentional vague problem and they start jumping into solutions and without having understand the problem at hand. So if you don't do that, right, which is the first step, it's unlikely that you are going to be able to arrive to the solution, or which might be one solution or multiple solutions, because the area might be vague, and that might be different ways to approach a problem. But if you don't understand the problem, it's going to be difficult that you can approach it, right? So one example of one situation I faced, it was when we launched in the past a new store that we had some, the search was not working as we wanted. And basically, I say to an interview, you launch a new store and search is not performing as you was expecting to perform. What will you do? So this is intentionally vague. So here, what I expect from a PM is to be really asking questions to herself or himself, or at an interview to the interviewer, that help her or him really go into understanding what is the problem. So on this example, search is not performing well. How are we measuring search? So and what we were expecting and why. So these are going to be important elements that will help you really dealing with the problem. And then stay curious. So when we say search is not performing, and for example, we say, okay, it's because we see that the conversion is low because the customers who were searching, the clicks that we are receiving are less than what we were expecting. Here there are multiple dimensions on why this could be happening. So it could be that we don't have the right business inputs. So we might not have selection, we might not have a good price, we might not be shipping in convenient ways, and many other things. Or it could be that we just enter into the market and the customer don't trust us because they don't know us. We have not built yet a relationship with them, or they have a very different mindset than in other marketplaces. Maybe we are not providing the experience that they are expecting to receive. So that will be another dimension of the problem. Or there could be a third one, which is we might be having technical issues. So we might not have done a good indexation. We might not be handling well the language. We might not be ranking well the products, or we might not be recalling the products. So there are multiple dimensions, and it's important to identify them, because if you jump directly into one, you are missing the full picture. And that can be dangerous. And then once you have identified the different dimensions, deconstruct the problem. So identify that each layer or each dimension might have multiple layers. So imagine that we have another problem statement, which is we have a profitability issue. So profitability issue, so this is a component that can be broken down into two other components. So profitability is equal revenue minus cost. So here we have one element that now it's two elements. So we have revenue from one side and we have cost in the other side. And we can go to the revenue side and we can deconstruct this further and say revenue in my product is a result of the traffic that I have into my product, the conversion that I have into the product, and the price that we are getting for each conversion. And then we can go one level down and we can say, okay, the price is the result of the number of units and the price per unit. Or we can look into the conversion and say, here there are the 3 steps of the funnel. How is the customer moving towards that? Or in traffic, we could look into, okay, what are the sources of the traffic that we are receiving and how are they performing? So, and we could go down. And then whenever possible, validate your hypothesis. So gather the information that helps you identifying if this is an area that you want to go deeper, or if this is an area that you believe that it's not the root cause of the issue, and move on without looking into this further. So that will be the next one. And when I'm doing an interview question, or when I'm working with a team in product definition or identifying root causing issues that we need to solve, I will be looking into these different steps. So to validate your hypothesis, you could think about what analysis can help me proving this, or you can do even walk the store. So be yourself your own customer and see the experience that you have so that you can understand better, for example, the flow and the friction, so that you could be using that as a information gathering. So for each of the different components, you might have different sources of information. Some might be analytical, some might be more research driven through more like qualitative analysis. So think about what will help you for each of the hypotheses, and then avoid analysis paralysis. So two elements here. From one side, the information many times is costly. So think about what is the right level of information that you need to take a decision. So if you continue analyzing, you might get into a lot of precision, but it has been so expensive to get into that level of precision. So think about that from one side, and from the other side is worse, usually. In many cases, it's worse to not take a decision than to take a bad decision. And why is that? It's because if you take a bad decision, you can learn from that bad decision, and that learning can help you in your next decision, or can help you in pivoting your product and changing the strategy. And the next strategy might be the one that will make you win. But if you didn't try, you're not going to learn, and you're going to be stagnant. So better usually to take a bad decision, because no decision is many times the worst decision. And finally, do not fall in love with your ideas and consider different options. So this is important for many different reasons, and I'm going to state some of them. But for example, if you fall in love with your own ideas, you might not be aware of your own biases, and you might be disregarding other options that might be better than your option. Or when you start testing your product or experimenting, you might be biased on the data that you decide to take. So you will be probably over-indexing in the few data points that are proving your hypothesis, and then the multiple data points that might be disregarding your hypothesis. So try to be as objective as possible. Although being objective is not easy, sometimes you need to be as much as possible objective. And finally, also, think that you are going to have to onboard many people into your decision. You're going to be having to onboard your team, your tech team, your business partners, your finance partner, your manager. So and it's going to be very important to explain the why of your decisions and what else have you considered. So if you are objective and explain the pros and cons of each of the different options, it's going to help you earning the trust and winning your team and the different stakeholders and partners that you need to win. So the next one, this one is something that I'm passionate about, and it's how to drive an innovation culture in my team. And I thought about that for a while, and it's like, how can we make decision-making fast and empower teams to be taking their own decision? Here, what I apply as a mental model is, if a decision is a two-way door decision and a low opportunity cost, and I'm going to introduce now these concepts, then the team should feel fully empowered to be taking decisions, learning. And in my case, I will not want to be involved in any stage of the decision, just on the learning. On the other hand, if the decision is a one-way door decision or the opportunity cost is high, then I want to be involved, or I want the team to understand that they might need to get other decision makers into the decision that they are making. Very redundant. Or they also might need to gather more information, or we might need to show these trade-offs that we are making up into the chain. So, and now I will introduce the concepts because that will probably be more helpful. So one-way decisions are essentially decisions that once they are made, it's difficult to reverse, or it's hard, expensive, impossible to reverse. Two-way door decisions, on the other hand, is essentially that you walk through the door, you look around, if you like what you see, so the decision that you made was good, you continue. If not, you roll back and go back. Examples of one-way decisions could be, for example, when you enter into a legal agreement that you will need to really go ahead with. So that is it's most likely a one-way door. Or, for example, when the reputation of your company or your business is at risk. So you are taking a decision that might have press release attention. So that is something that you might want to look deeply or deeper than in other decisions. Other one-way decisions could be, for example, that you are building something that your customer is going to invest on it. For example, I create a new listing tool, or I didn't have listings in my retail experience, and now I created a listing experience. And I have customers dedicating hours to identify what product they are interested to add into the listing, and they create different experience into that. If the day after that I decide that this was not a good experience, I'm going to be frustrating my customers. So I need to be careful with this type of decision, or how I'm launching this new experience. And there are some one-way door decisions that can be mitigated, or that you can de-risk these one-way door decisions, but you need to be aware that this is a one-way door decision. So, for example, imagine that you are launching this new listing experience or another experience. How can you, and you have multiple countries in your portfolio. So you could decide to launch it only in one of your countries. And ideally, this country is a good representation of your portfolio of countries. So you can learn about the customer interactions, how the customer is using, so that you can later iterate the product and launch something globally that can work using that information that you gathered during this experimental phase. Another way of the risk, for example, is Kickstarter. They offer products before the product has launched, and that is a good signal for the startups or the companies selling through Kickstarter to identify how is going to be the demand looking like, and that can help them avoiding going out of stock or breaking stock, or purchasing too much stock that can make them entering into financial issues. So these are ways to the risk one-way door decisions. And then the opportunity cost. The opportunity cost is essentially what you are not doing because of this decision. One example is you have a roadmap of different projects that you want to drive, and you have some given resources to drive that. If you have a project that is consuming 50% of your resources, the opportunity cost is probably high, because probably there are multiple products or projects that you are not driving because of that. So it's going to be important to probably have a laser focus into why this project is important and why we are doing this. And then these also have some opportunities to the risk. And for example, if you create a minimal valuable product that can help you assessing the hypothesis that you have on why this project is important or why this product is important, how can you transform this into a single small hypothesis that can drive value to your customers? And ideally, this is a low cost exercise that you do that can help you learn a ton so that you can shape the decision or the future decisions considering this input and this information that you are gathering here. So that will be a good way to also de-risk an opportunity, a high opportunity cost project. And these might be things that you want to discuss carefully or consider carefully when you are taking decisions. And basically some other frameworks that you can use. I'm not going to enter into them because you can find them online. But basically here there are some. The first one is interesting, going back into the developing critical thinking. The first point, which is understand the problem. The 5 whys framework helps you identifying what is the problem that you are trying to solve. So if we go back to the problem that we were discussing about, search is not working well in this new store that we have launched. Why? Because we have a conversion issue. Why? Then you look into the different dimensions and identify, for example, because we don't have language expertise and we are doing things wrong with this language, for example. Why? And here you can go down and identify really the problem so that it can help you removing ambiguity and focusing into the actions that you need to take. And that's all for today. It's been a pleasure for me to do this webinar, and I hope this has been useful for you. Thank you very much for your attendance.